Hey guys, how's it going? So tonight I'm talking about the best laptop displays that I've used this year, and they all happen to be 15 or 16 inches. Not saying that they don't make incredible 17-inch displays in laptops, they do. It just so happens that it seems like all the R&D is going into 15 inches and 16 inches. I don't know why, maybe that's just where the sales figures are. I don't have access to sales figures, but I'm assuming that those are probably the most popular selling laptops out there, at least gaming wise. So I consider myself very lucky to be able to use all of these, and all of these screens are incredible. So if you already have one of these, don't go too crazy over it. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Okay, so here's a list. We got the GE67 with a QHD OLED screen, the Acer Triton 500 SE with a QHD 240Hz screen, the Zephyrus Duo with a Retina Searing 1000Hz mini LED panel, and the Razer Sharp Razer Blade 15 with a 4K 144Hz panel. And this particular display is available in both 15 inches and 17 inches, and they both measure identically. And I did a full analysis on that, so I'm going to be spending the last time on that particular display. So yeah, they're all different panels and they all serve different audiences. Well, somewhat. So which one's best? Let's go through them all and then we'll crown a winner. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the panels that use the most traditional technology. Let's start with the Blade 15. It's a great panel. It measures about 500 nits, 1001 contrast ratio, and it's 4K. So you might be thinking, okay, that's just a typical panel. I think the party trick here is that it goes up to 4K 144 hertz. There's no other panel out there like that to where you can get both a high resolution and a high refresh rate. I think that's the first of its kind that only became available this year in Razer's 15-inch and 17-inch laptop. I won't be surprised if Razer has an exclusive on that panel because I haven't seen it on any other laptop this year. I do think that the main detractor from the screen is the matte coating. It's got one of the strongest coatings I've ever seen. You can sometimes see some shimmering, glistening like you see when you laminate something. It's so unfortunate. It looks spectacular nonetheless. And if you want 4K, it's still a good option, but I bet it would look even better if it was glossy. Next in line, we have the Triton 500 SE. It's made by Acer. And I didn't do a review on this. I've had it for a while, and I've had some thoughts on it. I was about to do a review, but I kind of decided not to. If you do want to see me do any kind of coverage on it, I can put together a quick video really fast. Just let me know. But other than that, the reason why this screen was chosen is because it ticks every single box. You get 500 nits, you get a QHD panel, it's also 240 nits, and it has a full DCI-P3 color spectrum. And it has Advanced Optimus and G-Sync. And yes, I've looked. There's nothing else out there that checks all these boxes. You might be thinking the M16 is a QHD 500Hz panel and it's DCI-P3, but that's only 165Hz. And it doesn't have G-Sync. But then you might also be saying the Legion 5i or Legion 7 ticks all those boxes too. And they even throw in G-Sync. But that display is only sRGB. And in 2022, I think sRGB is starting to become a bit of an outdated standard. The colors definitely look a bit more washed out and dull compared to DCI-P3. I'm not saying it's actually dull or washed out, but when you do have them side by side, you do kind of tend to notice a bit of a difference. Alright, so that's it for the traditional displays. So let's talk about some of the newer stuff out there. I mentioned the GE67 with the OLED panel and the Zephyrus Duo. So I've covered the Duo a lot on this channel, so I've done about 3 videos on them right now, so you could go look at any one of them if you'd like. But the HDR display on the Duo 16 is incredible. The mini LEDs do a great job making bright scenes pop and dark scenes remain dark. Sometimes, honestly, the screen is a bit too bright. I find myself having to lower it. I find myself not being able to see some of the action because the screen is just so bright sometimes. I mean, I think that's a good problem to have. Let me know what you think in the comments. But then that's where some of the issues of this panel starts to rear its head. At lower brightness settings, you do start to see the 2 issues that are present with the mini LED panel. The first of them is the dirty screen effect. So that's essentially caused by pretty much there's tons of LEDs, about 500 of them behind the screen, and they all light up and dim independently to produce amazing contrast, but not every LED zone are tuned to the same white point as each other. They may be close to where you can't really notice at higher brightness levels, but at lower brightness levels, say 50% and even more so at 30% or lower, it gives the screen the effect that it's dirty and can be a fairly bit distracting. Not everyone notices it. And the next issue is blooming. That occurs when you can actually see the different dimming zones brightening and dimming and moving as the scene changes or as objects scroll past the screen. This is definitely a first gen product, and I do expect the technology to get a lot better in the future. Alright, and finally, let's talk about the OLED panel on the GE67. This came out of nowhere. Alright, so let's just get right into the measurements. This display does 100% sRGB, 100% DCI-P3, and 97% Adobe RGB. So I've been loving this for both gaming, content creating, and photo editing. Screens covering 90% or higher Adobe RGB just really makes your photos pop, and you can really see a lot of details when you're editing them in Lightroom or Photoshop. And I just really love using this panel. Oh, and this thing is bright too. 400 nits of brightness. Yes, it's not 1,000 nits. Yes, it's not 500 nits, but you're getting an infinite contrast ratio. So the blacks are true black, and the true blacks really allow the highlights to pop. When I'm looking at movies or YouTube, it's kind of like looking through a window, and it really just kind of gives it like a 3D-like effect. Okay, so let's start looking at all of these displays side by side. As you can see, and I'm really hoping that what you're able to see is going to come through on the camera. I try to configure it in a way that looks just like what I'm seeing in real life, but by the time it goes through my video editor and YouTube compression, I honestly don't know what it's going to look like. But you can see the Blade and the Triton are struggling a bit. I mean, they're honestly not struggling, but if you're comparing them to both the Duo and the GE67, it does sure appear that way. And you can kind of see that the Blade 15 has a little bit of backlight bleed in the bottom left corner, and I did find that to be a tiny bit distracting. And in the Triton, it looks like there's some IPS glow. I'm not able to see that in real life. The camera was picking that up. But you can clearly see that the black levels and the overall pop of the Duo and the GE67 just look tremendously better. So because of that, I'm just going to rule out the other ones. And for the rest of the video, I'm just going to focus on the GE67 and the Duo 16. So in the next few scenes, you can kind of see where the GE67 starts to take a bit of a lead. The blacks get completely black, and it just helps make the entire image pop a little bit more. I think 500 local dimming zones kind of isn't enough, especially for fast moving and smaller items that are being displayed on the screen. And I also found this particular Starlight video where the Duo just kind of gives up. It just dims the entire screen, but the GE67 is able to display each and every star pretty much with 100% accuracy. The difference is the way OLED panels work is each pixel can individually be illuminated or turned off, while with the Duo, you're limited to the 500 or 512 local dimming zones. So that's kind of where the Duo starts to show its limitations, and I think that's what crowns the GE67 as the best laptop display so far this year. There is one issue that might be a deal breaker depending on how sensitive you are, and I'm talking about the PWM flicker. So most OLED screens have this, and it may bother you, or it may not. So also check out this video that I captured. The flickering you're seeing in the background is coming from my Philips Hue. Then I'm showing my LG C1 OLED TV, and then my iPhone, and they all appear to have some kind of flicker. It may not be the same type that's present in the GE67, but there is still something going on. So maybe that leads me to believe that maybe this is just a placebo effect for me and I'm not being bothered by it. But in my full review, I'm going to do a lot more long-term testing on this laptop, and I'm going to see how that goes. and I'll be comparing it to the Legion 7i 2022 model, which just came in. So a video is coming on that soon. So the winner is definitely the OLED screen, but I'm not gonna say like your next laptop needs to have it. At the end of the day, all of these screens are good. And last year there were some great panels. The year before that there were some great panels, but every year they do get better and better and better. So if you have your eyes on a particular 17-inch laptop or a particular laptop that's not the GE67 or that Razer Blade 50 whenever it comes out, don't get too hung up on this. Unless the display is like the most important thing to you. And if you guys guessed the way I talk about my laptops, I spend a lot of time talking about the displays, and I probably nerd out a little bit more than I do compared to other sections. So I am kind of that way. It doesn't mean that you need to be. So kind of just buy with where your heart's at. But if you are like me and the display is the most important to you, then you're going to have to go with the GE67. So with all that being said, guys, I really hope you liked this video, and that'll do it for this one. See you guys in the next one. Thanks. Bye.